in the NFL. Here we go. It's a Tuesday. The regular crowd is shuffled in. We had 5 consecutive days of playoff games.
Yes, we did.
Most of them outstanding.
No wonder I'm so tired.
Yeah.
And then we had last night.
That was fun.
Also happened.
Two defensive guys on the deck. I'm already taking shots. I loved
Not
it.
so much fun at 6 at halftime, and now this was the game, really. Rodgers here sacked by Anderson Jr.
Watching that, this is
Look at Rodgers.
It's a tough way for this to be potentially the last game of a Hall of Fame career.
Be his final attempt. Just a brutal night all the way around for the Steelers, who once again in a playoff game look completely overmatched. And so Rodgers sailing off into the sunset, into an uncertain future. You'll hear from him in a moment. Now, Steelers, they now have a playoff winless drought that extends to 3,285 days. They've lost 7 straight playoff games, and in those, they have trailed by at least 21 points in every single one of them. Lots of questions now swirling around the future of Mike Tomlin. Here's what he had to say.
I'm not even in that mindset as I sit here tonight. I'm more in the mindset of what transpired in this stadium and, certainly what we did and didn't do. Not a big picture mentality to sit here tonight.
This league has changed a lot in my 21 years. When you hear a conversation about the Mike Tomlin they given to the Twitter experts and all the, experts on TV now who make it seem like they know what the hell they're talking about. To me, that's an absolute joke.
What have you learned from being with Mike for a season about him?
I've answered that a number of times. I've talked extensively about how I feel about Mike, and I just did in that answer. So, thanks.
So that was fun. There's really 2 separate storylines here, or 2 separate human beings. First and foremost, Texans, awesome. They go to New England. They play Sunday early. That's ESPN and ABC. They're my pick to go to the Super Bowl. We'll talk about them as we go. But the storylines this morning are, did we see last night the last game of Aaron Rodgers' career and the last game of Mike Tomlin? I don't know if it's a snap decision because he's been there 19 years.
Hey, get off Aaron's lawn.
The last game for Mike Tomlin as the coach of the Steelers. What should we be thinking, Dan Graziano?
I think the first thing you should be thinking is take Mike Tomlin at his word that he wasn't in that mindset yet. And I believe that's true of the Steelers, too. They are very, week to week. Let's try and beat the Texans and then figure out what comes after that. So those conversations, if they're going to happen, will happen in the next couple of days, and they'll figure out what they want to do. In a world where the Ravens can fire John Harbaugh, anything is possible. Yes, I'm not going to sit here today and tell you, it's 1,000,000% certainty Mike Tomlin's back with the Steelers. He's got 1 year left on his contract. There's an option situation the team has to address. They'll figure that out. So I think we'll get a resolution on that pretty soon. Aaron Rodgers said before the season that he thought this was likely it. If we take him at his word, he's 42 years old. Obviously, they got as far as they could. He's getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds. It doesn't seem like there's much reason for him to keep going. I don't think the storybook ending is probably out there.
And his legacy as a player is what it is. He's one of the greatest players of all time. That's not up for question. Right. The Tomlin piece of this, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you believe, the question's on the screen, do you believe the Steelers and Tomlin should part ways?
I think they will part ways. And I just think from Mike Tomlin's perspective, right, 19 years, the playoff drought of 7 now and being down 21, he has done a phenomenal job. And let's just I want everybody to understand how much I respect and think of Mike Tomlin. He is an absolute Hall of Fame coach, what he's done. But when the fans are screaming for your job at every point, like at some point it has to be exhausting for him as well. Like distraction comes in based on that alone, right? These guys have answered these questions for the last 6 weeks. I mean, that's how often they're being asked about this thing. I just think at some point it comes to a head. And again, does that mean that Mike Tomlin should be fired? That's not even it has nothing to do with that. It's just is the message, is what he's doing, and are you going to take a move and just move on from it? Because let me just say this. If this were a player who was 500 every year for the last 7 years, do you think they would keep that player around? The answer is a hard no. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. Now, a head coach organization is different than a player, so but think about it that way. It doesn't matter that you're just good enough. Is this the best we can do? And if it is the best, because of we haven't won the playoffs in that long, and been down 21 or more in the last 4, tells you you're squeaking in and you're not a real contender. That's not where the Steelers want to be.
It's been disappointing for a long stretch there. And the tough thing is any isolated, and you made the point earlier about how they go week to week, but in any isolated season, you could make an argument that they've overachieved. But you look at this whole stretch and you have to say it's certainly been disappointing, not just for the Steelers, but for just any organization. I remember the Bengals used to make it to the playoffs every year.
Right.
And like that stretch was a disappointing stretch. Even though it was successful, it was like a stretch that felt disappointing. And I think the hard part for all of us is when we look at it, the problems don't seem obvious, and the person, or there's one problem that seems obvious, and there's no one you can particularly blame for them not having a quarterback.
Right.
And that's tied into them, like, wanting to win every week. And it's one of the things I like and respect the most about the Steelers, but ultimately, the one position that matters the most, no matter how much they outcoach or overachieve for their roster or have a great defense, no matter how often they do that, there's one position that they haven't gotten right since Ben Roethlisberger, and that position matters. I don't think that anybody up here, anyone, and Jeff probably is the person who's closer to understanding why they might want to move on from Mike Tomlin. I don't think anybody up here thinks that if Mike Tomlin had like a real quarterback, that they wouldn't be successful. Like, we all believe that. 100%. So that's the weird part, is like arguing that you have a coach that you know can get it done, and you know the problem is you haven't gotten this one position right, and then your answer is not to keep working on getting that position right. Your answer is like, whatever. Right. Get him out of here too.
But you just said it. With all of that being said, the one thing they're missing is the quarterback. It's not part of the head coach's job description to go out there and secure the quarterback of the future. So as I look at this, for Mike Tomlin, yes, Pittsburgh's fans might be frustrated. If I'm a part of the Steelers organization, I don't give a damn what the fans are being frustrated about. I have a coach in my building that gets the most out of our teams year after year after year. Himbo texts me, the last 6 years, they've won more games than they were anticipated to win in the preseason. And that's what it's been. These playoff games that they've continued to lose, there's not one of these games that we went in. Last night, if we sat at this table and we were here Monday morning, and we said, who do we pick to win the game? All of us would have picked the Houston Texans. Yeah. And we would have said the defense is going to dominate in this game. And that's exactly what happened. So I know we have to find somebody to blame and take the fall of all of this. I do not believe it is Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, the only reason the game's close last night in the fourth quarter is because C.J. Stroud kept turning it over. The only way you were going to beat the Steelers this year is by turning it over, or lose to the Steelers by turning it over. Mike Tomlin, so the Cincinnati teams that went to the playoffs every year under Marvin Lewis and lost, those were good teams that lost some playoff home games that they were favored in.
Right.
The Steelers aren't doing that. The Steelers are getting to the playoffs over and over again with a team that shouldn't. And that is actually a credit to the coach. Now, I know the Steeler fans are going to say, I don't care, right? That's not good enough. So if you are the Steelers and you want to move on from Mike Tomlin, it's not because you think the reason you're not advancing past the first round of the playoffs is the head coach. The reason would be, it's been 19 years. We had a lot of success together. It is time to do things differently in this organization. And that means change at every single level. So I think that's the conversation you have. Mike Tomlin might want to have that conversation with himself as well, right? Like, is it time for him to try something different?
I agree.
I agree with Dominique. Until they get quarterback right, it does not matter who coaches this team. This is as far as they're going to go.
This is my issue with that part. And because you said this, you're like, it's not the head coach's responsibility. It is the head coach's responsibility after 19 years of who's going to be the quarterback. They sought Aaron Rodgers, right? Could have drafted Jackson Dart. Could have had some other player. They could have addressed this differently. Other teams have done it. Like, you think about Green Bay. That is, you can't go from Roethlisberger to Pickett to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and then maybe back and Duck. I mean, like, I get you've won games, but you've never really been a true contender. If you're the Steelers and your adage is the standard is the standard, we haven't met the standard in a long time.
As predicted in the pre-show meeting, we could do 5 hours on this
so good.
without stop. And we have much more of it coming as we go.